I'm so excited to have you here because we're going to explore something truly fascinating. African violets with long necks. You might have seen them referred to as goosenecks or long stalks or long stems. Allowing the long necks to persist can make the crown, which is that heavy, causing the neck to bend and potentially putting the plant at risk of disease. Well, guess what? I have not one, but two of these that we are going to decapitate, repot, and revive to save my African violets from long necks. In today's video, I'll show you two ways to rehabilitate these long-necked African violets. One method is tried and tested, and the other method is truly experimental, so do not try this at home just yet. Before we jump into the rehabilitation process, let's take a closer look at these African violet necks. These necks are a normal part of African violet growth. An African violet neck looks like a long and a thin tree trunk, and it resembles a small tree. The neck is the central stalk of the plant. When an African violet is young, that stalk is covered up by the leaves. But as the plant matures, it gets taller and the older leaves die off and they drop away. This leaves an exposed stem that looks like a miniature tree trunk, complete with a little bit of bark-like scales. And this is really important to note because it'll be useful information later on in the video. So the long, thick neck ultimately tilts sideways due to the weight of the crown, and this is what leads to what is known as the goose neck. You normally don't see this when you go to see African violets in nurseries or African violet shows because the owners of those African violets actually manage them. We have to manage the long necks when we're growing our plants. It's hard to be sure why this happens, but people believe it helps wild African violets spread and reproduce in the wild. Imagine how the top snaps off. It can take root wherever it falls. So one goosenecked African violet can easily turn into two or more. Anyhow, to decapitate and revive my plant, I'm going to need a nursery pot, a sterilized blade, some Clonex clone solution, and a few other bits and bobs. So let's get decapitating. I've got my two plant here that needs to be rehabilitated. Look at them, they're looking rather sad. These plants used to look so fantastic, so beautiful, but because I've neglected them, they now look like this. I mean, to be fair, I didn't really neglect them. I kind of knew that I wanted to make this video, and the only way I could do it is if I got my plants to be in this state. I've got my plant here. I'm going to take it out of that pot. It is very root bound. Oh, there we go. Shucks. You can see that. Those are the very fine roots of the African violet there, and you've already got those old leaves already falling off. So what I'm going to do at this stage actually is just take off a lot of those old roots. I did have an incident with my African violet. Not too sure what I did actually. You can see those leaves there are discolored. So I'm going to just take those all off. And it's really easy to take off the African violet roots. You just pull them off with your fingers. You don't even need to use an implement, and it's really easy. And I'm just taking off the old ones. And the reason we're doing that is those leaves are old anyway. Nothing is going to happen. We want the plant to focus its energies on growing lovely new roots and lovely new leaves. So I'm just getting rid of all these old ones that were looking a bit sad. I have really done a number on this one. That's what my plant now looks like. Most of those old leaves are gone, and I am not going to do anything with that root ball. I will leave it exactly the way it is. As you can see, the stem there is very woody. Remember, I had mentioned that the stem is quite woody. Now this really becomes important at this step. So I've got my blade here, it's sterilized, and I'm just gonna peel off those scaly bits like that. Just peel off the scaly bits just to allow the fresh stem to shine through. And as you can see, that looks really nice and fresh, and you've got that green of that stem shining through there. So we have lost a few of the Leca balls there, which is not a problem. I should mention that you can do this with your plant that's living in soil. It can work in exactly the same way. Whether your plant is living in soil, it's living in pond, it's living in Leca, these methods still apply. So I'm actually going to repot this. So I had a smaller 10 centimeter pot. Now I've got a 14 centimeter pot. I'm going to put some Leca in there. I've put some Leca in my 14 centimeter pot, and I want to make sure that my stem gets completely buried in there. So that's what I want, and my plant is going to be right at the top, which is exactly what I need. So I've put the right amount of Leca. I'm just going to fill that up with more Leca. As you can see, the stem is no longer visible and it's well buried in there. So whether you're using soil or Leca or pond, the same would apply. You just get a bigger pot, put your plant in the bigger pot, fill that up with soil, and you have your plant like this, and your plant is now going to be able to rejuvenate itself, and it will look so much better than it was when it was stalked. So I'll put that one aside, and we will now get to some actual decapitation. I know I promised you decapitation, and I will deliver. This is my goose-necked African violet. You can see it's really bent over there. The plant is not happy at all. I'll take that out of the Leca. And that's what that looks like. Look at that. It looks really, really, it's so bad. It's like, it's completely at a 90-degree angle. Can you imagine? Look at that. That is just, lost a leaf there. The beauty about African violets, if you lose a leaf, you can actually propagate that. That looks like a decent enough leaf, and it actually could propagate. Do I want to propagate? No. So I'm just going to chuck that in the bin. I'm going to grab my blade and cut the crown of my plant. So there we go. There we go. There we go. My plant now has no roots whatsoever. That's the bottom part of my plant. What I will do at this stage is just pull off again some of the old leaves, because I don't want to have too many of those. I want the plants to really be thinking about making roots, because at this stage it has no roots. So just get that off. And I want a long enough stem to be able to go in my pot. There we go. That's nice and straight, and that's going to be sitting up like that. You can see how the plant was just facing in the one direction. It's also really important to rotate your African violet plants as well, because unless they're getting the light from the top and they're just growing up, it's really difficult for it to maintain that symmetrical shape. It'll always face the direction of the sun. So two things were done badly here. I didn't control the neck, and I did not rotate the plant. That's what will happen. So now that we've got our neck, we've got some of the scale bits there. I'm just going to peel those off so that I have my neck completely fresh. That is my beautiful plant right there. Scales taken off, some leaves taken off. You know what? I still want to take off some more leaves, to be honest with you. I think I'll take that. I've now got my Clonex, and I'm going to put my Clonex on my stalk. And because this is a rooting hormone, I'm hoping that that's actually going to accelerate the growth of the roots on my stalk, and hence my plant is going to be alive. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And one of the reasons I've actually taken a lot of the leaves off is, you know, this plant has got no roots at the moment, so it's really going to be working towards making roots and just trying to sustain itself. It can't be having too many leaves to work with. So yeah, I'm hoping that really works. So as you may have guessed, this is the method I have never tried before. People try this in soil. People do this in soil and it works well. I'm thinking if it works well in soil, I don't see why it can't work in Leca. So there we go. That's what we're gonna do. We're putting this decapitated baby straight back into Leca with no roots. No idea what's going to happen. So again, note how I didn't dip my plant in my Clonex bottle. I decanted my Clonex into the lid. I'm not going to wash that off before I put it back on there. Give that a second to dry off a little bit, and I'm literally putting it back in the same pot that it was in. So I put a little bit of Leca in there. So I want enough that my plant is able to sit in there and plant neck to be buried. And that will be that. That works really, really well. And now to try and put the Leca in, that's actually the really hard part. Okay, that is my African violet decapitated, the neck descaled, covered in Clonex, and potted up in some Leca that was pre-soaking in my Clonex clone solution. I'm fairly happy with how she looks, and I'm pretty confident, fingers crossed, that she's going to do really well. So I'll put her in a cache pot like so, and I'll grab my other plant as well. If you're finding value from this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. So this cache pot is exactly the same as this one, except I covered this one with some black tape to prevent light from going into it, and in that way I avoid getting algae. But I kept this one transparent because I wanted you to see the level at which I'm going to put the Clonex clone solution. So I put my solution there, and I'm going to stop there. And the reason I'll stop there is that's just under a third of the level there. I don't want my stalk to be in contact with that solution because I don't want it to rot. So really keeping that away from the stalk as much as possible. So just about there. And you can see when I pick up the pot, it's kind of there. That's where it is. So that works really well. Just want to make sure everybody is covered and I don't have any neck protruding. That's good. And I'll basically do the same thing for my other plant. And because I kind of know, there, and you can see that one is just over there, which is great. So that root ball is not in contact with that water. So yeah, that's my two plants having gone through their rehab. This is the plant that I have decapitated, and it'll be easy to remember because it's not the one that's in the 14-centimeter pot. So when we come and do a review of these plants in a few months' time, hopefully they're both still alive and hopefully they're both thriving. It'll be easy for us to tell the difference. And of course, this one is the one that just got a new pot. So it really shouldn't have anything to complain about. It should be quite happy and just grow beautifully for me. I am going to put these, oh, hang on, I lost a leaf there. African violets are so delicate. You have to be so gentle when you're working with them. So aftercare for these two babies, I am going to put them on a heat mat. And I'm putting them on a heat mat because it's winter in Melbourne. It's really cold. I want the plant to be warm and so that it can get those roots going. I am going to give it quite a lot of light, both of them. I'm going to give both of them quite a lot of light. I don't want them struggling to produce food because I have cut off the root system. I want those leaves to just be, you know, literally just walking into the pantry. And then I am also going to keep them very humid. And a way you can do that is just either use a humidity dome, or you can even get a Ziploc plastic bag and just put the whole plant in the Ziploc bag and close it. I wish I could do that, but yeah, of course I don't have any Ziploc bag right now that are big enough for that. So you guys are gonna just have to use your imagination. And I'll keep changing this nutrient solution in here at least every week, or, you know, worst case scenario, every 2 weeks. And yeah, next time we see these plants, hopefully they'll be thriving. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and go and watch this next video where I talk about how you can take care of your African violets. I'll see you there.